the Science Museum in London, the World of Islam Festival mounted the first extensive exhibition of Islamic science ever organized. It thus marks a new chapter in the history of science as well as in the history of Islamic studies. Empress Farah Diba of Iran arrives to inaugurate this exhibition, which represents the fruits of 1,000 years of intellectual activity by Muslims. The Islamic sciences sprang from mysticism, philosophy and theology on the one hand, and from the socio-economic life of the community on the other.
It gives me great satisfaction to note that this festival has enabled a wide circle in Great Britain and from abroad to gain first-hand knowledge of some of the fundamental aspects of Islamic civilization. One of the basic characteristics of Islamic civilization has always been the awareness of the paramount importance of beauty and the necessity of preserving the quality of life. This threat is to be seen even in Islamic science and technology, which have never been completely divorced from a certain aesthetic influence, to the extent that one might almost say that Islamic art is a science and Islamic science is an art.
God says in the Holy Quran, "It is He who has appointed for you the stars, that by them you might be guided in the shadows of land and sea." The Muslims have contributed a great deal to the science of astronomy after they translated and preserved the works of previous civilizations. Baghdad was one of the main centers of the teaching of astronomy, though not the only one. From Central Asia to the Atlantic, there were numerous observatories. In Damascus, Cairo, Samarkand, in Fas, Toledo and Cordoba. The astronomers of the School of Baghdad produced remarkable astronomical tables of the positions of the planets. One of the most eminent astronomers of the 10th century AD was Al-Battani, whose role was similar to that of Ptolemy among the Greeks. Another astronomer, Abdul Wafar, who died in Baghdad in 998, studied the moon and discovered what is now known as the theory of variation. The modern scientists, Arabs and non-Arabs, have invented and developed many astronomical and scientific instruments. The astrolabe represents the full brilliance of Islamic astronomy. Although the concept was pre-Islamic, the Muslims perfected the astrolabe both as a scientific instrument and a work of art. It can be used for the solution of astrological and astronomical problems. The astrolabe was also useful for determining the time, by day or night, for fixing Muslim prayer times. The scientists and innovators of Islam extended the frontiers of astronomy, mathematics and medicine. They laid down the foundation of algebra, trigonometry and optics, and in turn their work contributed much to Western scientific advances. In the twin sciences of mathematics and astronomy, Islamic achievements have been recognized for hundreds of years. Some of the most important accomplishments of the Muslim astronomers concerned new methods of applying mathematics to astronomy. Islamic mathematicians combined practical and theoretical work to develop a science which, though based on Greek, Indian, Persian and Chinese ideas, made definite and important advances over earlier mathematics and exercised a powerful influence on later Western systems. Algebra, which enables relationships between numbers to be expressed by symbols and thus generalized, first became an independent study in Islam. The most famous names connected with Islamic algebra are those of al-Khwarizmi, who first used the word algebra, and Omar Khayyam, whose treatise on algebra was better known in the Islamic world than his poetry. In geometry, great Muslim mathematicians like Bayruni, Ibn al-Haytham, and Mazar Abdin Artusi contributed a great deal towards furthering this science. The practical necessity of finding a way across desert and sea stimulated the development of navigational techniques. Simple but efficient astronomical and mathematical data were used, and Arab sailors regularly sailed to India and back. The Muslim Arabs also sailed through the Mediterranean and knew many of its islands. Trade between the Arabs and China was served by both sea and land. There was a direct sea link between the Arabian coast and the south coast of China. Arab merchants and sailors reached most parts of the ancient world, which bears witness to their knowledge of navigation and the use of navigational aids and methods. The first Arab explorers were merchants traveling on business. Some of those merchants recorded interesting observations which have come down to us. But at a later stage, there were Muslims who devoted a great deal of their lives to travel. One such famous traveller was Masudi, who was born in Baghdad late in the 9th century AD. He spent 25 years travelling throughout the Islamic Empire and adjacent territories, including India. This great traveller recorded his observations in several works, the most outstanding of which is the Golden Meadows. There were numerous travellers and geographers who travelled widely, recording their observations and drawing maps for all the lands they went to. Among the famous ones are Ibn Hawgal and al-Biruni. But the last of the great travellers was Ibn Battuta, who began his travels from Tangier in 1325 and died at Fas in 1377, having visited virtually the whole of the known world of his day. In Islamic geography, Idrisi is unquestionably the most famous of the Arab geographers. His works can be said to have taught geography to medieval Europe. For more than 3 centuries, Europe was content to copy his work unquestionably. Islamic medicine was based on the Greek concept of the four elements and was later developed to great sophistication by philosopher-physicians such as Ar-Razi and Ibn Sina. Medicine was without doubt one of Islam's major fields of accomplishments, and the teaching at the medical schools of Europe was for a long time based on the writings of Ar-Razi and those of Ibn Sina. The most famous of all Muslim Arab doctors was Ibn Sina, known to the West as Avicenna, and sometimes known as the Prince of Medicine. He lived between 980 and 1037. Ibn Sina's works were translated into most languages of the world and served as the universal code of medicine for 600 years. Great hospitals in the Islamic Arab cities provided treatment for the sick as well as study and teaching. Western hospitals are based on the Islamic model. Islamic medicine depended on pharmacy more than any other source of treatment, and there is an enormous range of medical materials and a huge literature of pharmacy. Islamic domestic buildings are highly suitable for hot climates. Their inside walls are thickly plastered so that the extremes of heat and cold are rarely felt within the house. Water for irrigation in the Islamic world generally comes from dams, wells or underground canals. Even today, modern systems often supplement rather than replace certain ingenious ancient techniques, including water distribution systems for towns and villages. The exhibition includes models, maps and documents on the methods and means of irrigation used in various Islamic countries. Many ancient water-raising devices which have proved their utility over the centuries are still in use today in many parts of the world of Islam. Encouraged by Islam as a virtuous activity, agriculture was as much the foundation of Islamic city life, and hence Islamic civilization, as livestock was of nomadic life. Methods of agriculture, food production and preparation are tremendously varied according to climate and economy, but still have certain things in common from one end of the world of Islam to another.